Good morning, everyone. This is Regina Stevens. I'm the Assistant Corporate Secretary for the New York Transportation Development Corporation. Before we begin our meeting this morning, I would like to do a roll call of the directors. So when you hear your name, please say present, and then we can begin. Howard Zemsky.
Present.
George Haggerty.
Present.
Kathleen Mize.
Present.
Pravina
Raghavan. Present.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay, Howard, you can begin when you're ready.
Okay, thanks, Regina. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of the New York Transportation Development Corporation for Tuesday, August 18, 2020. I'd like to note for the record that due to public health concerns and as authorized by an executive order of the governor, the meeting will be conducted by teleconference. I'll note for the record that the public has been given the opportunity to comment on the agenda by submitting their written comments by 5 p.m. yesterday. I'd like to state for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. Directors have received the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I'll ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to today's agenda items. If so, I'll ask you to make an appropriate disclosure on the record at this time. Okay, hearing none, our first order of business is the approval of the minutes for the directors' meeting of February 24th, 2020 and March 23rd, 2020. Are there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions to these minutes? Is there a motion to approve both sets of minutes?
Howard, this is Pravina. I motion to approve.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
This is Kathleen. I second.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen, and thank you, Pravina. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, thank you very much. I'll now ask Doug Brissett to present the next item on today's agenda, requesting authorization to perform and take related actions in connection with the sale and delivery of the New York Transportation Development Corporation's Special Facilities Revenue Bonds, Series 2020 for the Delta Airlines LaGuardia Airport Terminal C and D redevelopment project. Doug, please begin.
Thank you, Howard. Good morning, everyone. Today we are asking the board to approve the operative provisions, sale terms, official statement, bond purchase agreement, related documents, and take related action in connection with the sale and delivery of the New York Transportation Development Corporation, TDC, Special Facilities Revenue Bonds, Series 2020 for Delta Airlines, Inc., LaGuardia Airport Terminals C and D redevelopment project. These are called the Series 2020 bonds. This is to be issued for the benefit Delta Airlines, Inc., also known as Delta, or the borrower, a Delaware corporation. LaGuardia Airport is owned by the City of New York, which leases the airport to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the Port Authority. The Port Authority and Delta have entered into an amended and restated lease agreement dated September 13, 2017. This is known as the lease agreement, pursuant to which, among other things, the borrower is obligated to 1, operate and manage the existing LaGuardia Airport Terminals C and D, known as the existing terminal facilities, pending their demolition. 2, demolish the existing terminal facilities. 3, design and construct new terminal facilities, known as the new terminal facilities, and other certain facilities that will not be leased to the borrower pursuant to the lease. And 4, operate and maintain the completed new terminal facilities. Collectively, these 4 obligations define the project. Delta has requested that TDC issue the Series 2020 bonds to 1, finance a portion of the project costs as previously defined. 2, pay a portion of the interest on the Series 2020 bonds and/or interest on the previously issued Special Facilities Revenue Bonds Series 2018, the Series 2018 bonds, and together with the Series 2020 bonds, known as simply the bonds. And 3, pay certain issuance costs related to the Series 2020 bonds. The project will substantially increase airside flexibility and reduce congestion and related delays at LaGuardia Airport. The proceeds of the Series 2020 bonds will be loaned to Delta. Delta will operate the new terminal facilities and related facilities falling under the lease agreement until the lease agreement terminates on December 30, 2050. The project construction is expected to be completed around the middle of 2026. Security for the bonds. Security for the Series 2020 bonds is provided through the execution of indentures, loan agreements, leasehold mortgages, and Delta's unconditional guarantee. The Series 2020 bonds will be issued and secured under a master indenture of trust dated May 1st, 2018, between TDC and the Bank of New York Mellon as trustee, supplemented by a first supplemental indenture of trust dated May 1, 2018, and further supplemented by a second supplemental indenture of trust dated August 1, 2020, collectively known as the indenture. The Series 2020 bonds will be special limited obligations of TDC, payable from certain payments to be made by Delta to TDC under the building loan as amended and a project loan agreement as amended. Collectively, these are the loan agreements between TDC and Delta, as well as Delta's promissory notes. As security for the payment of Delta's obligations under the loan agreements and promissory notes, Delta has granted to TDC and the trustee, for the benefit of the bondholders, leasehold mortgages on Delta's leasehold interest under the lease agreement pursuant to the building loan mortgage and the project loan mortgage. Collectively, these are the leasehold mortgages. TDC has assigned its interest in the leasehold mortgages to the trustee for the benefit of the bondholders, except for certain reserved rights. Lastly, the Series 2020 bonds are secured by Delta's unconditional guarantee to the trustee, known as the original guarantee, which will be affirmed by Delta through an affirmation of guarantee dated August 1, 2020. The Series 2020 bonds are special limited revenue obligations of TDC and are not payable from or secured by any property of TDC other than the trust estate pledged under the indenture. The Series 2020 bonds are not a debt of the state of New York, the state, the New York Job Development Authority, JDA, the New York Urban Development Corporation doing business as Empire State Development, ESD, or any other local development corporation, agency, or authority of the state, and none of these entities shall be liable on the Series 2020 bonds. In addition, Delta has agreed to indemnify TDC, the state, JDA, and ESD against certain liabilities or to contribute to any payments required to be made by TDC relating to such liabilities, including liabilities under the federal securities laws. Offering and sale of the bonds. As part of the transaction, TDC will enter into a bond purchase agreement for the initial underwriting of the Series 2020 bonds. The board is being asked to delegate authority to certain TDC officers to approve the maturities, prices, yields, and other terms of the Series 2020 bonds. The Series 2020 bonds will be sold on a negotiated basis and are expected to be issued as multimodal bonds that will initially bear interest at a long-term interest rate during the initial long-term interest rate period. The Series 2020 bonds may be subject to mandatory tender for purchase in whole or in part at the option of the borrower and remarketed in a different interest rate mode as permitted by the indenture. We are preparing to price the bonds on September 1st, 2020, with the closing on September 4th, 2020. In accordance with the attached resolution, you are hereby requested to, 1, approve the terms and authorize the sale of the Series 2020 bonds on a negotiated basis. 2, confirm the appointment of certain professionals. 3, approve the form and content of the official statement and various other documents connected with the sale and delivery of the Series 2020 bonds. And 4, authorize certain TDC officers and employees to take all actions deemed necessary to accomplish the final sale and delivery of the Series 2020 bonds. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thanks, Doug. Well done. Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions or comments from directors for Doug or anyone with regard to this item?
Doug, this is George Haggerty. I have a question and see if I can articulate it. I had heard you say that the borrower, at some point, when you're speaking to the issue of maturity, can actually call these bonds for some reason and then repackage or something. What was that?
Yeah, you described that quite well. Yes, they have the option to tender for the bonds, that is, buy them back and remarket them in a different interest rate mode, as they say. So in that case, it gives them flexibility to essentially call out the bonds and put them out perhaps as a floating rate interest rate
Right.
beyond that initial interest period.
But not necessarily obligating TDC's involvement in any way.
No, that has already been essentially authorized and embedded into the indenture.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, are there any other questions or comments from directors on this item? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public regarding this item. Is there a motion to approve this item?
George Haggerty, so moves.
Okay, George, thank you. Is there a second?
Pravina Raghavan, second.
Okay, Pravina, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? None. Okay, the motion carries. I don't believe there is any further business. I want to thank all of you for participating, and Doug, thanks again for the presentation. Is there a motion to adjourn?
This is
Pravina
Kathleen.
Raghavan,
Motion.
Oh, I'll
Second.
Okay.
Pravina.
Okay. All right, thanks, folks. Good to hear your voices. Hope to see you one of these days, and thank you again.
Thank you, Howard.
Thank
Okay,
you,
bye.
Howard.
Thank you, Howard.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.